Hello everyone, a very warm good evening. Thank you so much for joining amidst of your a long weekend schedule. So it's been a pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Chennai Outsystem User Group for this masterclass session 1.1. So as you are all aware of, masterclass sessions are a bit specialized than other sessions which usually handle in the user groups. So these masterclass session you will be able to you can tend to acquire knowledge on specific topics you learn from the experts of the specific items. So you can take it to your organization, you can take it to the community, and you can further nurture it back. So this masterclass will be having it as a three-part series. So this is 1.1. Today we'll be looking into a batch processing using timers. So as you like most of us know, like for each and every projects and for each and every client specific requirements, batch processing and timers has been a backbone for major activities. So I think that's the reason it has not been exposed to many of the developers. So now today, let's have a deep dive masterclass looking into the batch process and timers and how to use it, where to use it, and when to use it. So once again, I welcome you all on behalf of the OutSystem user group community, and let's get a deep dive into the masterclass. So before speaking to the session technical event, I just want you to share a few points about the community. So we, as part of the OutSystems community, we are our ever-growing community since it started. So here we can tend to learn, we can ask questions, we can access reusable apps, you can share your ideas, you can look into some tags. So we are having more than 687,000 members in our community, and we have one of the most largest Forge component downloader community in the world. So if you want to know more information about your community, please bookmark the URL outsystems.com/community, where you can see all the documents, you can see all the pages related to the components, the questions asked, the answer asked, answer, and all the ideas that has been transferred. If you want to share your ideas, if you want to post any questions, or if you want to update or upload a component, feel free to do it. The community is very open, wide, and please make use of the community. If you want to specifically learn about the user groups, so we have the user groups where all developers and the platform users gather together. We dive into a concept, we speak about a concept, we ask questions, we clear our doubts, we share our knowledge. So those items will be happening over through the user groups. So we are a part of Cloud Systems Chennai user group. If you want to know the related details related to the user group, you can always direct to our OutSystems user group page, where you in the usergroups.outsystems.com. We will be having a specific page for Chennai. Not only for Chennai, you are also having other chapter user groups like Bengaluru, Bhopal, and we'll be having cross country user groups. So take a look at them, attend their events, and get rewarded. And as a part of community engagement program, OutSystem has been launching and it's been working on two spectacular programs: the OutSystem Champion program and OutSystems MVPs program. So people who want to be a champion or MVP from the community will be let you know when the openings have been applied for those programs. You can apply for it. You can show your potential and be an OutSystem champion and OutSystems MVP. So moving on to next, we have the ODC training open, the OutSystem Developer Cloud, the cloud native application from the OutSystems. We have lots and lots of seats that has been registered. People got trained, they got their ODC ready batches, and some people got certified on ODC. Now we have the ODC architecture specialization exams also rolling out. So make sure you are getting your slots booked, and you can take the training from our community portal, and you can always apply for the slot where you can practice with the OutSystem environment, the ODC environment, and you can show your skills. And we have the OutSystem Developer School. So we, from the community, we engage the developers to go to the OutSystem Developer School to get the critical knowledge on the OutSystems application development. So you will be getting certified, you'll be getting a voucher. Using the voucher, you can apply for certification exam, and you will be having sessions that will be rolled out by specific technical experts. And you have a very tailor-made curriculum which will be useful for you. and people from other development program backgrounds, you can also just take a look into the developer school page under outsystems.com/developer school. If you're interested, please apply for the developer school. And we also have the OutSystem research program, which is a very good rewarding program. So you will be having the ideas, you'll be having some templates, share it with us. And OutSystem is in need of some specific topics. You can always help them into specific topics. You can sign up to the research program using this sign up QR code. You can go to the OutSystem research program form. You can give your details. So once it has been curated and articulated, you will be given a chance to participate in the research group program. You will be getting some invitations. If you think you can able to participate, you can able to contribute towards the community through those topics, feel free to get in touch with the research program team. We are so happy to get your ideas and get your expectation and you get your transformational items which will be very useful for the platform development. So after participation, you will be getting rewarded through batches and vouchers and lots and lots. So OutSystem research program is a unique program where we tend to ask questions and we get the answers for the benefit of the development community. And regarding this event is in the webinar format, so microphones and cameras are not enabled for non-presenters and non-moderators. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comment, please drop it in the Q&A box or the chat box. So in the chat box, please let us know where you are joining from and what's your name. And if you want to provide any feedback, you can provide it in the chat. Else, you'll be receiving a feedback form link after the wrap up of the event. Please make sure you are giving the feedback, which will be very useful for us to serve you better. And this OutSystem user group Chennai chapter has been organized by Hattie Mary. Hattie Mary is from Kyono, and she's an OutSystems champion. And we have Krishnambal S. Krishnambal is from Zebia, and Krishnambal is an OutSystems MVP. So we have these organizers. So they'll be joining us. You can ask any questions to them. You can want to be a participant in any event. You want to be a speaker. You want any specific topic. You can always reach Hattie Mary, Krishnambal, or me. And the speaker for today is Mr. Goldy Luca. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker, Goldy Luca. So, Goldy has been with industry for 2 decades. Goldy has been at the forefront of assisting organizations worldwide in the journey towards digitalization and digital transformation. His dedication towards OutSystem began in 2012, and since then he has wholeheartedly embraced the full potential of the platform. And currently, he holds the esteemed title of Global Vice President at Kuno Consulting. Goldie is not only a respected leader in the community but also an official OutSystems champion who is deeply committed empowering and supporting the OutSystems developer community and the community as the whole. In addition to his professional endeavors, Goldie plays a pivotal role in fostering the OutSystem ecosystem as the organizer of Bengaluru OutSystems user group. So I extend my warm welcome and my thanks to Goldie for taking his valuable time and enlightening us through the Masterclass 1.1. Thank you so much, Goldie. Goldie, your line is in mute, it seems.
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I thought it was unmuted. Sorry about that. So I was saying, Jerome, thank you for having me here. It is pleasure. It's been some time since I spoke last at any OutSystems events. Since October, we met in one conference, Bangalore. Many of you were probably present there. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I will not wait more. We will get started for today's topic on this masterclass. Give me a second while I share my screen. Please let me know when you are able to see the screen.
I can able to see your screen. Thank you.
Excellent. Maybe I'll put it in the slideshow mode so that you can get a full screen view of the things. Although my internet is okay, it is taking some time for the screens to load. I hope everybody is able to see. Sorry, I'm not able to look at the chat while I'm sharing. So, Jerome, please help me to say yes or no.
Yes, Goldie, I can able to see now some picture.
Okay. All right. That's great. Let's get started. Thank you, Jerome. I think you have done a very long and detailed explanation, introduction for me. Yeah. So I'm Goldy Luca. I'm heading the OutSystems practice at Kyono. Um, I started my journey in OutSystems in the year 2012, and since then, my excitement has not stopped. Been working with lots of customers across the globe, doing OutSystems solutionings. I was also part of OutSystems company in Malaysia, and I'm happy to be here today. I'll be taking this masterclass, batch processing using timers. I like this quote: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra, right? And that's what you guys have done. Thank you for taking time out, learning something more from your day to day job, what you are already learning. It's a weekend, and I'll try to make sure that your time is very well invested. You will learn something and you will feel happy about investing this valuable weekend for this program. Quickly, I'll take you through the agenda. We are going to talk about timers in OutSystems. Earlier, I was thinking, should I start or not from very basics, but I am trying to cater to all type of audience. I am assuming that maybe many of you or some of you are new to OutSystems, probably have not worked on timers or maybe not worked extensively on timers. So maybe why not we start with some kind of an introduction to what timer is in OutSystems, and then we will take some example scenario and see how typically batch processing and specifically very large data batch processing is handled in out systems, right? So what we call it as bulk data processing, right? So there is a batch data, bulk data. Not much difference. We'll talk as we go along, but the main difference is that a bulk data, when we are talking about probably millions of records or hundreds of thousands of records that you want to process in a very short period of time. So let's see what is a timer in out systems, right? So timer, actually, it's a feature available in out systems that will execute your server action, any server action that you like, in a repeated or maybe once mode, but at a specific time or based on certain trigger. What do I mean by this? Okay, let me simplify this. Let's say, for example, I will be give you an example as well. Let's say you want to send a birthday wish to your employees, whoever has a birthday today, right? So you want to probably send a message at morning 7 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever, right? So you want a timer or a job that runs, checks the birth dates repeatedly and sends that message, right? So this is a very simple, plain example of what a timer is. We'll see now during this session how in detail we can use this feature for bulk and batch data processing. So the timer, this feature, if you want to use, you have to program it in Service Studio. I mean, you know what that programming in OutSystem means. It means most of the time either drag and drop or just configure the details. And another beauty about timers is that you can control their behavior from the service center, which means you don't have to go to Service Studio every time and do publish and all these things. You have lot of control over these timers at the service center itself. So how do you typically configure a timer? So Any timer, right, would want to execute certain procedure, right, or action. So what is it that you want to execute, when you want to execute, how long you want to allow that execution to continue without stopping. Now this is also important. We'll talk a little later why it is important, and how many times you want to retry in case if there is an error, right? So in out systems, though the default is 3, you can change those retry numbers as well. So let's talk more about our example, right? So let's say you are just getting started with timers, and somebody gave you a requirement. I want to send every 7 a.m. morning, I want to check whose birthday is today in my employees list. And for all the employees having the birthday today, I want to send an email wishing them happy birthday, right? Simple action, right? So you are seeing on the right hand side, I am having a aggregate that is fetching all the employees whose birthday falls today, and I'm just looping through each employee, getting their email ID and maybe getting their names, etc. details, and sending an email based on that. As simple as that. But this action, I don't want to run manually every morning. I don't want to wake up at 7 a.m. and click on some button to execute this action, right? And that's where your creating of a timer comes into picture. So if you see here, if you want to create a timer, you go to the processes tab, the leftmost tab in your service studio. I know most of you would be spending a lot of time on the interface tab, logic tab, and data tab. Process is where you create your timers. Timers are under processes because this things run asynchronously. They are also a kind of a process which triggers at a given point in time, right? Or based on certain event. And in out systems, that event is only one, and which is on publish, right? So there are two ways you can trigger a timer. One, you can schedule it, and two, you can have it automatically running upon publishing your module. So if you see here on the bottom side, the timer properties, right? This is where we are specifying what action I want to execute, which is birthday wishes, right? And that's what is was in my previous. This is birthday wishes action. I want this action to execute at schedule is 7 a.m. 0700. That time I want the timer to invoke my action and finish the work, right? As simple as that. Now, there are other advanced settings as well in timers. Timers in itself is a very big topic. I'm not going too much in depth, but here I will tell you a little bit more about what other things you can do in timers, right? You can also use timers to configure uh, priorities of timers. Now, what do I mean by priorities? Let's say you have many, many such timers, right? To be starting at, let's say, morning 7 a.m. So what happens? Which one gets executed first, or all of them gets executed? Well, that's not the case. By default, whenever they are configuring the platform, they would keep default timers as number 3, right? So it's not recommended to have too many timers running in parallel. But if you are configuring 3, then let's say, what if there are 10 timers waiting to execute at the same time? What happens in that case? Well, in that case, the priority comes into picture. You can configure what will be the higher priority. The one which is having a higher priority will take the timers, execute the timers first, and the one with lower priority will execute a little later, right? Also, timers allow you to execute uh, the process, the action for each tenant separately, which means either you can run timer only once, or you can configure it in a way saying that it's a multi-tenant timer, in which case for each tenant the timer will execute. So there is a property called is multi-tenant, and if you say it's true, then it will execute for all multi-tenant. We are not going too much in depth of this for now. Let us just keep simple. We assume that the priority is normal for the timer that we are creating, which is the default is a normal priority, and we just continue with that. Coming to the idea of batch processing. What is batch processing? Why batch processing? Well, batch processing actually is nothing but these timers or schedulers, also they used to be called in Linux, they are called cron jobs. More or less, the idea is same behind all of them, that they are typically used for processing a bunch of records. And there has been historically, what was happening is that these timers, schedulers, cron jobs, whatever you call it, they used to be executed typically in the night. And why night? Because night time, the main load on the system is very high in the daytime, when the users are using the system. So in the night, not too many people are using the system, which means I can use my CPU and RAM for processing or heavy processing a lot of records. And that's why the word nightly here, right? So typically these timers are executed in the nightly fashion. um, Around, depends, right? 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, right? So that night, in the night, they will try to finish whatever other work, which is extensive to CPU and RAM, to save on resources and also to not make the user experience bad for people who are in the daytime using the system at a very high volume, right? So now bunch of records is what we are processing, right? So in our case, employee birthday wishes case, maybe the bunch is not very big, right? Your company is 500 people, 1000 people, 10,000 people, 1 lakh people, who knows, right? But it's not a really very big bunch of records. But still, you want to process, you want to check all the employees, right, whose birthday is today, right? And you want to process it, right? So you want to collect the list of those employees whose birthday is today. You want to process them. When I say process, all I want to do is probably, in this simple example, I want to find out his first name, last name, maybe his designation and things like that, and create a nice email, maybe AI generated or whatever, to wish the person best wishes for his birthday and send an email. So that's probably my process which needs to be executed, right? So for each employee, you are executing these things. So these records, when you bring them together, okay, for processing, but when you are actually processing it, when you are dividing them, splitting them, it is typically called batch processing, right? So you're fragmenting or you're creating batches. The batch can be whole or it can be divided batch, but in short, you're processing a lot of data in one time, in one go, right? That's the idea behind batch processing. So let's consider a scenario, right? Let's take some more complicated scenario, which feels little more real world, and it can give more insights on what is involved in building a batch processing for the real world, right? Having really big bulk of data. Let's consider that some website like Amazon, right? They want to encourage more buying, right? So you are coming, you are buying things and everything, but they want to make you feel rewarded, that yeah, you guys are doing well, you should keep buying from me. Maybe what I'll come up with is that I'll say, for every time you take a delivery of the item that you have ordered, I will add some points or rupees to your account. Maybe 1 rupee for every item you took delivery for, right? So this is what I will add it in your account. And I want to do it, let's say, within a day. We don't want to delay too much, right? We don't want to make it like, waiting. We don't want to make customer wait for a long time, right? They want to see rewards. If it is a reward, people want to see it as early as possible, as much as like within a day or less than 24 hours or something like that. But also we want to take care, right, that we don't want to do all this rewarding and everything which is not the core of the shopping experience. We don't want it to start taking a lot of CPU and RAM time, right? And sometimes it's not even in real time possible. For example, in this example, I want to reward the customer only after he has received the delivery, right? So I don't want to process these kind of rewarding application at a time when people are using my system actively. Otherwise it will slow down the server, right? So that is why we will put it in a off peak hours, night hours, or whenever, everybody knows, depending on the region they are in, which times there is less number of people coming to our application for shopping, and that time we can do some batch processing, right? So scenario is probably clear. But before we go ahead, there are certain considerations, right? We must ensure that there is no repetitions of data, right? So you don't want to reward if a person has purchased one item, he has got the delivery of one item. You don't want to keep rewarding him for that same item again and again, right? Otherwise, it will create a loss to the company. And vice versa, right? You want the data to be up to date. So let's say if system says, okay, I am reducing 1 rupee from my pool of rewards, that 1 rupee has been credited to client account, that client should be able to see, the customer should be able to see, yes, that 1 rupee has come to me. So it should be reliable, the data should be up to date, and it should be reliable. That is one kind of consideration. The other kind of consideration is that when I'm processing these rewards, right, it should be processed within a certain period, right? I don't want this rewarding process to take very, very, very long time, or you are probably fragmenting it in such a way that it takes either many number of days or many number of hours and keeps on consuming CPU hours and stuff like that. So you want to probably have a control over that, right? But at the same time, you don't even want to leave anybody out, right? So let's say today 1 million customer got deliveries of their order, and all the 1 million customers are eligible to get their rewards. You don't want to, just because you want to finish within 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever, right? You don't want to leave anybody out, right? You cannot say, oh, okay, this today I only gave 500,000 customer their rewards because that is the only window I had, right? So those considerations you want to keep in mind, and we are talking about really, really high volume of data, and processing also is not very simple. It is little complicated because you are doing certain money transactions from one account to another, right? So let's try to understand this whole rewarding process which we just spoke about, right? So first step is to get the list of customers, who has paid for the items and got the delivery, right? Of course, once they have items delivered, they become eligible. So we want to get the list of all those customers, similar to our getting the list of all the employees having birthday today, right? Get the list of everything that you want to process and start processing, right? What is the process here for us? The process is we want to add 1 rupee or some points to that customer's balance, right? And also part of the process is sending an email. And also part of the process is I want to make sure that once I have done the whole work, right, I don't want to repeat anybody's reward, and that's why I'm going to mark it as paid or something like that. I want to update the status, right? So I'll update the order item status based on, okay, the reward is credited or something, right? Somewhere I want to have a notification set, and this has to repeat every night, okay, or midnight or whatever time I feel is most appropriate, right? So how would you typically create this kind of an action? Let's call it as the cashback action, right, which implements our reward process. This is how it would look like, right? So first you have an aggregate that is getting all the customers with their items delivered, right? That getting the list. And then for each customer, we are looping, right? What we are doing, we are calculating how much they are eligible for rewards and actually giving them those rewards. After the rewards is credited to the customer, we want to send an email to him. And finally, the last step was to update the status. Okay, I have credited, I have sent an email, and the loop is closed. Let me mark that the customer has been rewarded, so that there is no repetition, and also the customer has been served. This looks good, right? If you see, there is nothing more required. We have finished our batch processing. It is as simple as that, right? Get the list of records you want to process. In a loop you start processing those records, and finally you do some cleanup, right? In our case, that cleanup is nothing but updating of the status, right? In your cases it could be something different, but the idea is definitely as simple as this. Get the list of records, start processing them for whatever you wanted them to be processed for, and do the cleanup and finish. So now, if it is as simple as that, why such a big noise about batch processing? What's so complicated about it, and why we are having a session like this, right? I mean, if it is as simple as that, well, and that's where they say the God lies in details. What happens, if you remember that timers, right? When you are processing them, it can create some errors. If you remember, where is our must haves, right? We said we don't want to do any repetitions, right? So if you don't want to do repetitions, where is the question of repetition in this case? Well, the repetition in this case is, let's say if I get any error here, right, in any one of these steps. Let's say there was an error while calculating it to the customer, or actually doing the credit to the customer. Something went wrong. You see, what will happen is the behavior is that the for loop, because of the error, will stop functioning. Let's say I had 100 records and fifth record had an error. What will happen is everything breaks, there is an error, and now what happens? The whole thing repeats itself. The timer restarts automatically. When the timer restarts, in case of error, which is by default, three trials. By default, timer will try three times to finish its work. First time it could not finish, so now it has come back second time. Again, he got 100 records. Again, on the fifth record, it is getting an error. Now, did you notice that the first four people got rewarded again, right? Because the first four records went smooth. Nothing was a problem. But only the problem was with the fifth record. So the first four people got rewarded again and again till the time the timer was executing 2-3 times, right? Now that's a problem, right? So in that case, what happens is um, you have a repetition of rewards. So somebody may ask, right? I mean, we have default repeat on error is set to 3, right? By default, that's how OutSystems is designed. Whenever you create a timer, it will have a repetition in case of error to set to 3. So somebody may ask, what if we just change the repetition? Let out of 3, let us make it 1. But if you make it 1, right, there will be unprocessed records, isn't it? I mean, I had 100 records to process. Fifth record, I got an error, and I will say I will not repeat just because I don't want to repeat rewarding those poor people, right? Then what to do, right? In that case, what to do? Well, in that case, what you can do is you can separate out the processing and the timer execution separately. And how does it help? It helps because when you are separating out the process, you are taking the error handling in a separate process. So if you see this new action, right, we are creating a new action called process reward. We are doing the same three steps, right? We are calculating and crediting the cashback, emailing the customer, updating the status, right? But we want all these three steps to finish correctly before the timer proceeds to the next record. In case of an error, what we are doing is we are handling the error within the same action. We are not letting the error go back to the previous step, right? Here what happens, if there is an error in this step, okay, and if nobody has handled this error, the timer will stop working, right? The for loop will break. But in this case, if you are calling the process reward action separately, right, like this, your process rewards, now even if there is an error during processing of rewards, that error will be handled within the action. It will not come and break this for loop, which means if the customer number 5, 6, and 7 have a problem, the 8th onwards, everybody will be taken care of, right? So unless, of course, every customer has some problem, is a different thing altogether. But let's say, what if really there is some problem, so let's say 100 records I want to process, and out of which fifth record onwards, errors are coming, and the error is nothing specific to this process or the way we are processing. Maybe some system is down somewhere, the reward system is down or some API is down. In that case, can I stop this timer? Can I tell this timer stop working? I mean, this is not going to work for us. We'll come to that little later during this session. So now we have solved the problem, right? I mean, now there is nothing more to worry about, isn't it? We have a very good timer which collects all the records that needs to be processed. In a for loop, we are trying to process, but we are making sure that during the process, if there is any error, it does not break my work, which is the flow which is already going on. So now there should not be any problem, right? Is there anything more? Uh, well, there is, right? If you remember, we had two types of problems. One is we did not want repetitions, and another one we wanted everything to finish on time and completely. Everything should complete well, right? So this one, the second consideration is not meeting up, right? There is an unfinished processing. Why there is unfinished processing? Well, what happened was in this process, because we assume that there are only 100 records, everything will go well. But here there was, let's say, for example, 10,000 records, 100,000 records, more than what you can finish within 20 minutes. Now, what are we talking about? What is this 20 minutes? Well, 20 minutes is the default timer timeout before which out systems will stop the timer. So let's say if you have 1,000 records to process, which is taking more than 20 minutes, anything that is taking more than 20 minutes, those many records will not execute, the timer will break, right? The timer will be killed by out systems. So why should out system do that? Why only 20 minutes and things like that? Well, in the problem is, it's a performance best practice. You should not run anything anytime that takes more than 20 minutes, because end of the day, as you understand, these timers are consuming resources, CPU, RAM, everything. So they do need some sort of time bound processing for them to work correctly. But this 20 minutes is configurable. From service center, you can in this 20 minutes. But then the question is, why don't we just increase the timeout, right? We'll increase the timeout and the problem is solved. Well, the problem cannot be increased because, as we said, one, it's not a performance best practice, and number two, we still don't know how much to increase, right? 25, 30, 35. What if it takes 40 minutes someday, right? Then what to do, right? And that's where this concept of processing the bulk data comes into picture, right? It's a batch data, but it's in bulk, right? It's a huge data. That's where we are going to now solve the problem of timeouts in timers, right? So you want to process something, but it is timing out. Error we already handled. So now what we are trying to do is, as a new solution for the problem, we are trying to divide the data. Okay, I have 10,000 records, but I know that if I take 100 or 1,000 or some number of data, that many data is easily getting processed. So why don't I create a chunk of all the data that I want to process, right? So earlier what we were doing, we were getting all the data that we want to process, but now we are making a bit of a change. We will take only a part of the data that we want to process, right? So if there is 10,000 records, I want to say max record is 1,000. I want to take only 1,000 at a time, not more than 1,000 at a time. Then I will do my process, that processing of rewards or whatever. And then we'll check, are we nearing some timeout or not? And if we are nearing a timeout, then what we will do is we will again start the timer. You can always restart the timer programmatically and even from service center. So what we'll do is, before it comes to a timeout, what we'll do is we will again start the timer, and we'll start from where we stopped, right? So see the action, right? What I'm doing is I'm first capturing the start time when I'm starting this process, right? So let's say 10 a.m. I started. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting the customers, okay, whose item is delivered, they are eligible for rewards. I'm getting the customers, but this time I have limited the number of records that this aggregate will send me. And what is that limit? 1000, for example. And with that 1000 records, I am doing a for each loop. And in this for each loop, what we were doing, same thing we are doing, processing the rewards. But we don't know, right, when the timer may end, when the timer may finish its work. In which case, let's say while I'm processing the, I don't know, around 940th record, right? What if the timer breaks, it dies? If that happens, right, if the timeout reaches before even, my last few records are getting processed, what if, earlier I did not have this commit transaction? What if the timer finishes its time within 20 minutes, for example? Those records will not be committed, will not be saved. That means there is a possibility that it will be a repeat reward, right, to those customers. And we want to avoid that. And that's why what we are doing is, after processing every reward, after crediting customer the reward, we are committing the transaction. And then we are also checking, before processing the next record, we are checking, have we reached the timeout or nearby? So let's say 20 minutes, right? We have the start time here, which we started 10 a.m. So right now, what is the time? 10:19. Okay, maybe we have one more minute. Let us continue and process more records. But if not, right, we have almost reached the 20 minutes, then let us invoke the cashback processor again, which means the same action will be fired by timer once again. This is done programmatically. I'm taking a little small gap before proceeding. I have covered a lot of things. If you have questions and you want to keep it typed in the Q&A box, please take your time and I will proceed after 2 minutes.
Dear team, if you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A box. So we
Keep
have
posting your questions. Yeah, keep posting your questions before you forget so that in the end we can quickly take all the questions. Okay, I'll continue now, hoping that you guys would have written some questions if you have. So now this solution should look like complete, right? Now we are taking care of errors, we are taking care of timeouts, we are also taking care of non-repetitions. Anything else that we have to consider? Yes, there are some things to consider. Okay, what if, let's say, there are external integrations which are causing delays? This is what the example I gave you some time back, right? What if there are some APIs which is not responding on time, because of which, all the records are failing, or there are some errors, in the integrations, because of which, all your processing is getting into errors and stuff like that, right? And what will happen, let's say here in this timeout, we have hard coded, right, 20 minutes, because we know it is service center by default is 20 minutes. But what if somebody goes to service center and change this 20 minutes to 15 minutes, 35 minutes, right? Then if somebody has changed it to 50 minutes, and here I'm not timing out, right, I'm not waking up the timer, and I'm going on and on and on, but it will not go on, it will somewhere break before the 20th minute, because after 15 minutes there is a break. So how to detect those kind of situations, right? And what if there are more probabilities of errors, right? I mean, maybe I'm connecting to systems where, I'm not sure if they are available, not available. you know, some Tatkal reservation APIs and things like that, right? What to do in those cases? We have to think of those cases. And what if we want to stop processing in between, right? So when we have started processing a batch, and this is what I spoke about some time back. Let's say I have 100 records to process, four records went smoothly, fifth onwards everything is failing. Now I don't want to wait till all the 100 are getting into a failure. What if I want to stop the timer in between, right? Because timer will take either 20 minutes, or it will wait for your for loop to break, or it will wait for for loop to finish. So what if I still want to stop that timer, without worrying about anything else, right? Is there any programmatic way I can do it? So for some of these other considerations, right, what we can do is we can create one more version of our process rewards action, and let us call it as process customer rewards action. Now, what is the difference? Well, I have done a couple of things here, right? And these are all very advanced level of configurations when, as I said, things are not as smooth as expected to be during processing. One is we have created a site property, and what this site property is helping us to do, it is helping us to stop the timer if we want, right? How we are going to stop? Well, it is part of the process, right? It is part of the rewarding action or whatever action we are doing, right? We are checking the site property. It says true means continue the work, false means don't continue the work, please stop, right? The moment it is false, so the fifth record onwards, I'm not going for processing, committing anything, right? I will, for fifth record onwards, everything goes into a false mode, right? So nothing will continue processing. The timer will stop processing the records further, right? Again, there was a question, right? What if, the timeout is changed in the service center? Somebody has changed the timeout, right? Well, if it is nearing timeout, okay, and you don't want to take any chance of starting the timer, because what happens when you say wake the timer back again, right? Wake up the timer again, there will be a few seconds, and in worst cases few minutes of gaps. Well, it may not be minutes, but it all depends on how your hardware configuration and things like that is. But and maybe because other timers are also waiting, so many possibilities are there. If you don't want that, wait time, such a long wait time, right? It could be, very very long wait, it could be short wait, we don't know. What you can do is you can try to wake it up before even this timer has finished its work, right? How will it help? It will help because by the time the timer wakes up again, we are still almost nearing the completion. So let's say I know that this timer takes around 2 3 minutes between the next timer and this timer to execute. That 3 minutes I will minus it in my calculation. So 3 minutes before I will give a command to say that please start the next job, next batch processing, because I am about to finish. Right. So while that takes 3 minutes, you are still again going on and processing the remaining records. So that's the whole idea behind taking care of some of these finer things, right? Which, if it matters, right, again it's case to case basis, right? Does it really matter? Do we really want to measure nearing timeout? Do we really want that, you know a timer that is processing? Do I really want some stop mechanism, stop processing mechanism? It all depends. These are advanced considerations, may or may not apply in all your scenarios, right? So that's the whole idea. So this is how the updated cashback action will look after we have taken even advanced considerations into picture, right? What we are doing, we are taking all the customers with their items delivered, right? And uh, limiting it by max records, right? So the max record will say, I want only 1,000, for example. And for each customer, you are cycling now, right? And if there is more data, you are still continuing, give me more, and keep on continuing until there is a nearing timeout, during which time a new timer would have started, and it would also do the same work, right, which this current timer is doing, right? So probably as simple as that, and as complicated as that, the way you look at it. I want to thank you all for listening to me patiently because your mics were off. But yeah, I'm open for any questions, answers, discussions, anything I can help you with.
Yeah, hi Goldy, thank you so much. So we got some questions, so I'll try to read it one by one. So, what is the use of commit transaction action?
Yeah, as I mentioned, commit transaction. I don't know. My video is little laggy. I'm closing my video. So commit transaction is to clean up, right? Is to give a finalization to the processing you are doing. If you remember our reward process, in reward process, let's say I have rewarded the customer 1 rupee for the delivery of every item that he has taken, right? Now I want to update the status saying that, yeah, this customer is rewarded, so that next time the customer is not picked up for rewarding again, right? So I may say reward awarded or rewarded or something, some status, right? But once I put the status rewarded, okay, I have to commit that transaction. Otherwise, what will happen if I have not committed in the for loop? Something goes wrong. Again, the for loop starts. Again, the timer starts. The same customer will be doubly rewarded.
Okay.
I hope that clears
Okay.
the answer. If not, please let me know. I can try to display.
Yeah, I think that's clear. So I think again we got a question. Uh, can we able to update the timer value or the timeout of the timer programmatically instead of updating through service center?
Can you update the timers retries or timeouts? Timeouts?
Time. I think both.
Okay, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think you can do it programmatically. I will have to check. My understanding is you can do it only from service center. And yes, of course, you can change it programmatically as in from service studio, but again you will have to do a publish. So if you remember in one of my slide, I showed you that you can configure the timeout to be 20 minutes. Now you want 20 to be 10, you will have to change that to 10 and publish again. But if you
No.
are asking, can I change that 20 to 10 in an action, in a server action? I don't think there is any such action to my knowledge. But if you still somehow, you say, no, I want this feature, right? Then you can always do it uh, through a hack. And the hack is simple. All these timers and their settings are stored in a database table, OutSystems system database table. I think the name of the table is cyclic jobs or something.
Taking jobs exactly.
Go to the cyclic jobs and change it. I typically don't advise changing anything in system tables. Reading is still maybe okay, but don't go and change it. Not a good practice, but if, as I say, right, if you really, really want to do it, can do it.
Okay. That answers. And we have a question: won't it be better to use commit transaction between a timeout passed and wake timer to commit all the transaction in one go instead of doing it for single transaction at a time?
Okay, let me share my screen again to explain you the problem in doing that. Okay, so this is the slide which talks about it. You see, let's say 1,000 records, right? I'm not committing the transaction here. Somewhere else I am committing, right? Maybe after the timeout is true or somewhere here, right? In the true node, right? If I'm putting the commit transaction, what will happen is, what if, by the time you measure the timeout, right, you are in this if condition. What if before that the 20th minute has reached, or whatever the timeout of the timer has reached? Whatever the process you have done will not get committed, even though the customers are rewarded, everything is done, right? But you get broken, right? Here the process breaks, right? And the commit transaction is not called, so it will waste all your work.
It will be an unreachable code.
Yeah, yeah, it will be unreachable code. That's right. Yes.
Got it. Thank you. So, and we got a question like, what about ODC? Still, some things are not completely implemented regarding the commit transaction or the wait timers. Any of
Yeah.
things are not
No, no,
available.
no. Let us, yeah, let us keep it till O11 for now, please.
Okay.
ODC, yeah, yeah, ODC maybe is out of the scope as of now.
I understand. Okay. Now we have a question. What if we use a light BPT instead of timer and trigger the light BPT process once the record updated as
Yeah,
delivered to customer or
yeah,
rewarded?
I know, and this is a very frequently asked question and frequently thought about option, right? And the answer is very simple. The very reason you are processing everything in a batch, in a nightly or whatever timely fashion, right, is because you don't want the server to be busy doing some other work when this work can be done later, right? There is no urgency of doing that. You are consuming the CPU cycles, you are consuming your RAM and everything for things which can be done little later. Customer will wait for 1 rupee to be credited for 24 hours, no problem, but his item should be delivered, and when he is browsing the products, he don't want it to be slow, experience to be slow. So the simple answer is for the performance reasons, saving the CPU cycles and processing everything in batch, and also to ensure, right, if there are some problems. Let's say, for example, if I use a light BPT, what if there was an error, right? What if I want to retry, for example, right? So those things again, you will have to write uh, too much of code logic, right? And that too when the system is live, when the customers are shopping on your website and things like that.
Exactly. That answer. And we have two questions. So, what if we have a very large number of data, like somewhere around unmanageable data? I think that has been answered in the presentation.
Yes.
And we have a question. What are all the best practices and performance we should follow to build out systems reactive web application? So,
Okay, I think we are totally talking on a different topic.
yeah,
Reactive
yeah.
application
So I
best
can
practice.
take this question. So
Yeah.
regarding this question, I think we have documentation and curriculum for it. What I suggest is we have the recent event from OSUG, which has been uploaded in the user group page or in our YouTube channel, which is exactly the titled "Best Practice and Performance to Build a Reactive Web Application." I think that should help. And we have a question, hi, like we're using a site property value in an action or a timer. Once the action or timer started and consider it's in running for 20 minutes, and we are changing the value of the site property after 10 minutes. So now what will happen to the running actions or the running timers? So that,
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that question.
okay, so we have a, so like we have a question. So the question, let me just read the question. One sec. So like we are using site property value in action or timer. Once the action or timer gets started and considered it's running for 20 minutes. And we are changing the site property after 10 minutes, like somewhere around halfway around. Now my question is what value it will use first or changed value in after the 11th minute. So if you like the action is running through a if condition after the 11th minute, will it takes the value which was there when the timer action was starting, or it will change, it will take the current exact value at that particular point of time?
Okay, to best of my understanding of how the internally the timers work, it will take the default value if the timer is in execution, right? So if it was 20 minutes, you change it to 10 minutes, I think it will still continue for 20 minutes, and the next time it will stop at 10 minutes. But I may be wrong, right? So I'm not 100% sure, but my best guess is that for the current execution, it will still continue with the 20 minutes.
Okay, so whenever we are calling the site property, it actually takes the current value at that point of time.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So then we have a request that maybe the next section we could cover ODC. Hopefully, yes, I'll put on a word. Thank you. And that's all the questions which we have here, Goldy. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Really happy you guys took time on a weekend. Once again, thanks a lot. I hope I really did justice, added some value to your time. Thanks a lot. I hope to see you again someday soon, somewhere, either online or offline, wherever.
Sure, sure. We are so
See you,
happy
Kirtan.
here, Goldy.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
In a word,
everybody.
I can say it's been a rewarding session.
Oh, great. Thank you. And that helps me a lot. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so much, Goldy. Thank you
Thanks
so
a
much
lot.
for your valuable time. It's been a pleasure for us hearing from you, hearing from technical legends and stalwarts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jerome.
Privilege.
It was a wonderful session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So, guys, like next we move on to our evaluation. So, this is not a usual quiz. As we are on the masterclass series, we'll be having the evaluation series. So, we'll be taking evaluation from the first session, second session, third session. We'll put it together. We'll add the cumulative average. Then, toppers on that cumulative average will be getting rewarded. So, let's move on to our evaluation. It's kind of a quiz which happens on all our user group sessions. So please wait, let me just share the screen for quiz and we can move on. So for hosting quiz, I would like to welcome Keetana Kannan, software engineer, senior software engineer at Zevia. And let's get the ball moving. Welcome, Keetana.
Hello all, good evening. And let's start the quiz. I'm Kirtana Kannan. Directly we can go to the quiz. Okay, everyone get ready to join. And you can use the QR or you can use public.it and please pin number 622 811 Anybody facing any issue, let me know in the chat. Can we start? Anybody is facing any issues? Let's wait for a few more minutes. Let's start the quiz. The first question is how many default retries are configured for a timer in case of errors? Okay. How many default retries are configured for a timer in case of errors? We have 24 correct answers for option 3. Superb. We have Lavanya, Harika, Mayur at top 3 positions. How are timers prioritized if multiple timers are set to execute simultaneously? And we have 22 correct answers for by a specified priority. And we have Mayur first, Pawan and Sebi at top 3 positions. What feature is useful for multi-tenant applications when configuring timers? And we have 26 correct answers. It is multi-tenant. And some changes in scoreboard like Sebi, Mayur and Harika is placing first 3 places. What is the default number of timers that can execute at a time? And the option is 3. And we having Sebi at first place and Mayur and Sandeep as next 2 places. Which tab in Service Studio is used to create timers? The answer is processes. The position was same as Sebi, Mayur and Sandeep at same 3 places. How are timers typically triggered to execute actions? The correct answer is automatically based on a schedule. The next question. Sebi is on first place and Sandeep Mayur is next two places. Timers are typically used during peak hours of processing records. That was false. Next, we are looking at scoreboard and we are getting Mayur on top place and Sebi Sandeep following. Dividing large batches of records into fragments or batches help improve processing performance. The answer is true. Next, we are going to scoreboard and we are having Mayur, Sebi, and Sandeep on top three places. Timer kill switch needs to be placed before end of the action. The answer is false. We can move to scoreboard and some changes in scoreboard that Sebi, Mukesh, Harika on top three places. It is not possible to change the timer configuration in Service Center. The answer is false. And finally, we are going to the scoreboard. Congratulations, Harika, you are in third place. Congratulations, Mukesh, you are in second place. And congratulations, Sebi, you are in first place. Thank you so much for participating.
Okay, thank you, Kirtana. Thank you so much for conducting the quiz. So, team, as I said, it's a cumulative score. So please be in touch with user group pages and our YouTube channels to let you know about the next events. We have the Masterclass 1.2 and 1.3. So make sure you attend those sessions and you get to attend the quiz, the evaluation, and the cumulative score will be calculated, and you'll be getting a surprise gift from OutSystems. And thank you so much everyone for joining. So please make sure to post your name and your location where you have joined. If you have any suggestions regarding the improvement of the sessions, any clarification you want, feel free to reach us. Make sure that you have filling the feedback forms. So once the wrap up has been completed, you'll be having the feedback forms. Just make sure you enable it, fill it with your honest answers and let us know. And take the skill backs to your organization and to your team, and to make sure the skill has been transferred in a very positive approach. And this masterclass is creating a very positive impact. And if you would like to be a speaker or volunteer in the Chennai user group, feel free to reach the organizers, Krishna Bal or Hatimeri or me. You can reach us through our LinkedIn channel or through the chapter page. And please let us know if you have any concerns that would make the delivery feel better. Thank you so much, team. Share your experience in your LinkedIn or channel through using the OutSystem user group hashtag. And thank you so much for joining. Till we meet again in the next session, I would like to give a very warm thanks to everyone, especially our speaker Goldy. And of course, Goldy will try to give the gift. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. And that's all, team. Let's have a very good weekend. Till now, we made it a very productive weekend. Let's get the same line through. And this is J.R. Durai signing off. Thank you.